Welcome to American Narratives, where we talk about the bold, unexpected, and deeply human side of career change. I'm Marianne Pina.
And I'm Joe Fracham. This season, we're doing something a little different. We're hitting pause on the linear success story and hitting play on the pivot.
Because let's be honest, life rarely goes according to plan. Sometimes we choose change, and sometimes change chooses us. But either way, those turning points shape who we are and how we lead.
American Narratives was created by CMP to share real stories of identity, resilience, and leadership. And this season, we're zooming in on the moments when people pivot the script.
You'll hear from leaders, executives, change makers, and everyday people who've reinvented their careers and themselves with clarity, courage, and a whole lot of honesty.
So, if you're in the middle of a change, considering one, or just curious how people bounce forward, not back, you're in the right place.
Let's get into it. This is American Narratives Season 4. Welcome to American Narratives. I'm Marianne Pina.
And I'm Joe Fracham. And today we have a guest, Anne Chow. Anne,
welcome, Anne.
Welcome, Anne. It's great to have you.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Let me give you an intro on Anne. Anne Chow is a transformative leader known for helping organizations grow through connection, culture, and inclusion. Anne spent more than 3 decades at AT&T, culminating as CEO of AT&T Business, a global organization serving millions of customers and generating tens of billions in revenue. Today, she's the founder of CEO of Rewired CEO, a board leader, an independent director, and a professor at Northwestern Kellogg School of Management, bringing a practical people-first lens to modern leadership. She's also the author of Lead Bigger, the transformative power of inclusion. Today, we're talking about what it really means to lead bigger and how inclusive leadership drives performance, trust, and growth. All right, there's a lot in there, as you can tell, very well pedigree.
Yes.
This is going to be a real meaty conversation.
Thank
I know
you.
our listeners are going to get a lot out of, including
Thank you.
us, actually.
Oh, absolutely. And so we love to start off with the rapid fire question
Sure,
segment, right?
absolutely,
So
I'm
here
ready.
we go. And tell us, what is your favorite band?
My favorite
Or
band
music,
my favorite band is the Foo Fighters.
All right.
Ooh, okay.
Yes.
Oh, she's cool, too.
Yeah.
I like
I
that.
don't know about that, but I'm an old Gen Xer, so.
There you go. Okay. What was your very first job?
My very first job was, if you think about it, it was actually babysitting
Okay.
when I was very young. And then it was selling Girl Scout cookies also. I like to think of that as my very, very first sales job, and it taught me a lot of things.
Absolutely.
And then you'll find this interesting when I was in college, for a little side hustle of cash, I had a guinea pig and I sold the guinea pig babies at the store.
Oh my
That's
goodness.
a very unknown secret that I've just now shared with all of you.
Okay, well, it's
So
out
she
in
had
the
a guinea
open
pig
now.
mill. I don't know how
yeah.
we feel
Yeah,
about
no. I loved my guinea pigs and they happened to reproduce. So
Yeah.
that. That is
Okay.
fantastic.
That's a fun
That's
fact.
a good one. I like that.
Favorite movie?
favorite movie, I love the Matrix series. I love the John Wick series. Love Shawshank Redemption. So
Love
I
that.
can't really think of one, but those are some of my absolute favorites.
Those are good ones.
We just saw The Matrix
Again,
about
yeah.
2 weeks ago, yeah.
All of them? Did you watch them back to back?
No,
to
we
back
just
to
saw the
back?
first one.
Okay, you got to watch them like an immersion.
Really? Okay.
Right, yes.
It was a good movie. I forgot how good it was. And
It's
so we probably
fantastic.
should see
It
the
is.
series.
There's so much
Yeah.
behind it now that I'm older and get to see it again. I'm like, okay, there's a lot behind that.
Yes.
Next one. What's your favorite book or author?
I have several.
Besides yours.
Well, yeah. I love anything that Adam Grant writes. I love anything
Yes.
that Brene Brown writes as well. And so
Yes.
those are probably two of my go-tos.
Absolutely. Okay. As a teenager, what were your career aspirations? Did you always want to work for AT&T or
Oh, gosh.
what happened there?
No, I actually didn't. So as a teenager, I would say even as somebody in junior high and then heading into high school, I always dreamed of being a musician. So
Okay.
I aspired to play in Carnegie Hall. I actually went to music school, so I went to the Juilliard pre-college division of music in Manhattan, in New York City. So I had this dream of making it all the way. And so that was the aspiration and dream back then.
Okay. Well, it's never too late, right?
It is too late. For that, it is absolutely 100% too late.
What was
and
your
I'm okay.
instrument?
My instrument was the classical piano.
Oh, wow.
Love it.
Wow. Do you still play?
I absolutely do not play.
Interesting.
Okay.
Wow, that's impressive.
Well, tell us more about you. Tell us, where did you grow up? Who were your major influences growing up as a child, teenager in
Yeah.
your life?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a proud second-generation American. My parents immigrated to this country from their native country of Taiwan, and they came here because they believed in the American dream. They believed that the United States was a place where hope lived and where you could become anything that you wanted to. And so I'm very, very proud of that upbringing. So I'm was raised in a very classically immigrant home. Education was everything. We didn't have a lot as it related to means, but we had discipline. We had a great foundation of values. And my greatest influences on my lives are actually my parents, and specifically my father. Yeah. And so I was born in the Midwest, but I was raised on the East Coast. So largely my young life was spent in the state of New Jersey, going back and forth between New York City and other places. So I'm pretty, you can definitely call me a Jersey girl. I identify with that very strongly.
I love it. So when you think about, you fast forward schools, like how did you do in high school? What university did you go to, and why?
Yeah. So I did pretty well in school. For my parents, academics, and I think this is pretty stereotypical, but academics were a top priority, right? The ability to learn, right? The dedication, the imperative of learning was something that was drilled into me since I was young. And the need, one of the values that my parents instilled in me was that you must always strive to be your very best. Now that's different than the best, right? And so when you think about many Western paradigms, it's about the leaderboard, right? It's about being number one. In actuality, in life, there are not a lot of times where you can be the best skier, the best public speaker, the best in the world, right? But as long as you're being your best, that is actually the most important thing to keep in mind in your life. And the only person you should be comparing yourself to is yourself yesterday. And so academics were very important. So I was a good student. I was not valedictorian of my high school, but I was reasonably up there. One of the first career pivots I made was actually in my head, where I had this dream, as I just shared with you before, about becoming a professional musician. But as I got older and I was heading into high school, this desire to become financially independent started creeping in my mind, right? I didn't want to always be under my parents' rule, if you will. So I started doing a little research on what it took to be a successful, financially independent musician, and it's a tough life, right? It's not good enough to be great at your skill. There were too many uncertain factors, uncontrollables, right? I didn't call it that then, but now as an adult, that's what I would call them. Sure. So I made a pivot in my mind, and I said, I will always love music, but I am not going to pursue that dream because there's too much of a chance that I might not become successful, or I might not be able to achieve the things that I would aspire to achieve. So in high school, then I just leaned on what are the subjects that I was good at, what are the things that came more naturally, which were math and science. That naturally led me to look at, it's very, very straightforward in terms of my logic. What degrees require strength in math and science that also have strong graduation rates and graduation starting incomes, right? And so I landed on engineering, which wasn't that difficult to land on, simply because my father was an electrical engineer. So in a way, I followed in his footsteps, and that's what I went to university for.
Love it.
Why? And you went to Cornell.
I did. Yeah.
Obviously, it worked well for you, because I think you got your bachelor's and a master's degree at Cornell, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I actually, and this is something that was unique at Cornell at the time, but I was at Cornell for 6 years in that really, really tough Ithaca winter.
Yes.
Oh my.
But I was fortunate enough to get 3 degrees, actually, a bachelor's and master's in electrical engineering, and then also an MBA, because I knew this was actually another career pivot that I made in my head, which was I had the wonderful opportunity throughout college to do several very technical internships. So I did some hardware engineering work, I did some coding, I did a bunch of testing. I was actually in some deep research. And one of the things that I realized was that I loved the intellectual, the technical challenge, but I really also enjoyed interacting with people. So that's why I stayed for that last degree. I knew that I wanted to work somewhere at the intersection of technology and people. And I thought that business degree would help me launch into a career that would enable me to do that, not just be purely technical.
Did you work before you went back and got your MBA in a professional role? Or did you go straight through?
Yeah, I went straight through. This is one of the unique things about that program, was that you could go straight through. Now, I did work every summer break and every winter break in really meaningful roles, but not full time.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
All right, so now you come out highly credentialed from a fantastic university. You've got this confluence of business and electrical engineering at a master's degree level. Very, very impressive pedigree.
Thank you.
Where did you go then? Like, what
Yeah.
was your first role, and how did you choose that?
Yeah, it was. When I graduated from business school, it was 1990, and so jobs were aplenty. Quite frankly, the hypothesis I had at the time, right, which was having a technical background with some technical experiences with a business degree would open up many doors.
Yep.
And it actually did. I evaluated offers in consulting, in consumer products. I remember one of them was to become the product manager of dental floss. I won't
Who
name
was
the
that?
company now.
Okay, we
Yeah,
won't
I'm
ask
not
her.
gonna- It's irrelevant. It's ancient history.
It's
but-
not. Anyway.
Yeah, right,
Brand
right.
management's
Yeah.
always interesting. Anyway, go
yes,
ahead.
that's right. I evaluated roles in the defense area, in the area of national defense, and I wound up landing at AT&T. Now, my father worked in the telecommunications industry for over 30 years, and he worked for AT&T for the majority of his career too. And was he an influence, would you say? I was certainly very familiar with the company. I was certainly familiar with what they did at a very high level. And I had an affinity to my home state of New Jersey, and they were headquartered there as well. And so they came with an offer that was really quite good. And so that's why I chose it. I never thought that I would be there for as long as I was. My original thought was, let me go get some, foundational experience at a global multinational company that is world-renowned as it relates to its brand, where I have personal affinity to,
Sure.
right? And let's see where that takes me. And so that's how I went through the thought process of starting and launching my career. My first job, Joe, was as a network engineer, because I believed really strongly that AT&T is a networking business, is a communications business, and I felt very strongly that I wanted to understand the foundation of what all of the products and services were based on, and that would really help advance my career and advance my impact, if you will.
That's right. So, network engineer, AT&T, well credentialed, and spoiler alert, you were there over 32 years.
I was, or some form of the company, I would say.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Different iterations of, and obviously it went through its own transformation. You went through a series of, I'm sure, kind of traditional and perhaps non-traditional moves there. It ended
Yeah.
up in a key P&L role over a $35 billion business.
Yeah.
So obviously it worked very, very well, and you had a lot of victories along the way. What would you say was your first kind of big decision when it came to your career progression within
Yeah.
AT&T? What was it, and how'd you make it?
Yeah, so Joe and Marion, just to put context into this career journey, as an operator, right? During those 32 years, I had 17 different roles and 26 different bosses, right?
Yep.
And so I've probably seen it all in the school of hard knocks, if you will.
Yeah.
So as I think about that progression, a lot of it was very intentionally driven and catalyzed by me, supported by so many amazing people, mentors and sponsors throughout my career. Some of it was largely serendipity, right? I got a call for something. But in terms of one of the first big pivots that I made, it was actually out of my first role, because I knew that I went to AT&T to start technical and then move closer to business. It was very obvious to me in my first role that as rewarding and interesting as my job was, it wasn't in an area of the business that made the decisions, right?
Okay, yeah.
Where money would be spent,
Yeah.
what products to launch into the marketplace, right? It wasn't a role that was interfacing with customers at all. And I was also intrigued, because this is largely the story of my life. I'm very used to being one of the very few, or the only, or the first, right? I also observed that in those key roles that were key business decision-making roles, which included P&L roles, that there were not a lot of people like me either. So that became another internally driven challenge for me.
Oh, cool.
Was,
Yeah.
okay, I wanted to do it theoretically coming in, but now I'm very, very motivated because I'm super curious about what that's all about. So my very first pivot out of that network engineering job was to move into international operations, where I was responsible for some processes and negotiating agreements with other providers around the world for one of our key products, right? So
Interesting.
it moved me closer to the market and closer to the business. And then from that role, I pivoted into my first P&L role. My third job was a P&L
Wow.
role. And so I
Okay.
ran a product and a mini product line that was $60 million.
Yeah.
And so, this is the benefit of working for a company of big scale, right? You get big responsibility very early on, and
Yes.
throughout, you have wonderful opportunity.
Wow, that was a big leap. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, but it was a very logical progression, and this was all as an individual contributor, right? I had not really managed a team of any
So
size.
your first team, you're running the P&L basically.
Yeah. I mean, I had my own product, and it,
Yeah.
and the P&L was 60 million. Was 60
Which
million
in today's
revenue.
dollars is even more substantial.
Yeah.
I suppose, but that's the way it worked, right? I mean, that's the way it worked back then.
Yeah.
So I had my own product, which gave me this chance to really apply all of the theoretical things that I learned in business school, right? The income statement, the balance sheet, the 4 Ps of marketing,
Yeah.
product, price, placement,
Yep.
positioning, to apply them. And I fell in love with that product management role. I fell in love with it because I thought, this is amazing. I have
Interesting.
a full purview of my product, and I'm the one making the decisions, right? Of course, with support, with partners, but the buck stops with me. If the product is not performing, it's not the sales force's problem.
Right.
It's your problem to fix, right? In partnership with sales. So that was my first, I would say, taste of general management, right? Of what it could be, and that those early progressions, looking back, made a lot of sense, and they just set an incredible foundation for me for the pursuit of just greater business impact.
Thank you.
Right,
It's not only what you said, how you said it. You really lit up when you talked about the P&L.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And slowed down. You can tell that from the heart, it really was kind of, you found my home kind of
Yes.
thing, right? It's a lot of our listeners are kind of in that early to mid-career
Sure.
stage. What I heard is someone who was very motivated, jumped in, was very objective and criteria-based in making decisions, worked really hard, I'm sure. What advice would you give them if they're kind of where you were, say, the first 5 years out of college? What advice would you give them as far as what to think and how to navigate their career?
Yeah, well, Joe, this is super easy for me because I actually happen to have 2 Gen Z daughters who are within 5 years out of college. So if they're listening to this, they're going to mute it right now because they're sick of hearing it. But
good.
here's what I would say to those who have just entered the workforce from whether it was university or otherwise, is one, every experience you're having is an opportunity for learning. So absorb it, observe it, ingest it, study, right? Not just the technical nature of whatever your job is or your role is, but study the people, study how they interact, right? Learn what makes that organization tick, learn what makes that team tick, how it fits into your bigger company, right? That's one thing. The second thing I would say, because I do find this, I'm going to make a fairly stereotypical remark here, but one of the things that I do find is often lacking with newer entrants to the workforce today is patience, right? Patience with themselves, patience with others, and I don't mean that to be negative in the sense that is not a good attribute to be driven and to be decisive and to know what you want and to want to move on if something doesn't feel quite right. But what I would say as it relates to your job, it is okay to feel stupid in the early days. It is okay because you are still learning, right? And that is a very natural feeling to feel so uncomfortable because you have no experience, no practical knowledge yet, but that's what you're there to get, right? And so whether you like it or not, right? Let's just say this. If we're being all truthful with each other, none of us likes being supremely uncomfortable,
Yeah.
right? Especially a lot, right? What I say to young people that I mentor is that discomfort is a sign of growth, okay? And unless it's putting you in danger, right? And when I say danger, I mean your physical safety, your mental safety, or your emotional safety. So unless it's putting you in danger, that discomfort and that distress is an opportunity for you to grow, right? And this is how you build resilience, you build grit, you build your own flexibility, you continue to develop that learning muscle, right? Of how to do hard things, how to try new things. You know, these are mantras that are in my family, right? As we raised our children.
Sure.
And that's some key piece of advice. And I also think that this is how I put it now as an adult, right? And someone who's been in the workforce for a very long time. You must learn to give yourself and give each other grace. You know, you're going through a lot, others are going through a lot. So maybe somebody says something to you that rubs you the wrong way. Maybe they meant it, maybe they didn't. But the bottom line is that you have control of your own emotions and how you react. And it is like that old adage, which is, you know, life is, 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react, right? And that is something that's so difficult when you first enter the workforce. I remember even to this day, when I was in my 20s, I remember so much of the drama, some of it self-created, but some of it real, so much of how I didn't understand corporate politics, so much of just interpersonal dynamics that I just had no experience with, that I stumbled. And it was through the support of others, right? But then also just persevering, because there was really no alternative, right? I wasn't going to go move back home, right? You know, and I wanted to accomplish something. I wanted to contribute something. So the only way that you move is to move forward.
American Narratives is brought to you by CMP. For over 25 years, CMP has provided talent solutions for companies across industries. We have a presence in every region in the United States and globally.
CMP provides innovative, high-impact solutions across the full talent lifecycle. This includes enhancing careers while mitigating the risk of a downsize event through high-touch, high-tech outplacement and career development offerings, taking the guesswork out of hiring through high-definition recruiting and predictive assessment, and building capability through assessment, coaching, and training solutions.
And as a minority and woman-owned firm, we are deeply committed to making our world a better and more inclusive place.
Please visit us at careermp.com, where you'll find a number of resources to support your talent and development needs. Again, careermp.com.
Hope to see you soon.
I tell you, that capsule, there's so many pearls in there and gems. It's amazing. And thank you for that, because I got a lot out of that, and a lot of reminders and a lot of new insights. You had 17 moves. Which culminated, I think, you running a very large business within AT&T. Right. And so let's kind of talk. We can't talk about each move, obviously.
No, obviously.
You got to the top.
Yeah.
And then you pivot. And we'll talk about the pivot out here in a minute.
Sure.
But as you look back, any other kind of key insights? As people are in organizations right now trying to figure it out. They get frustrated, they get mad, they're impatient, all of that other stuff. You've given some great stuff there. What other insights would you give as far as org navigation and making it work in whatever organization they choose to be in, whether they end up as a big leader or not? What would you coach them to do?
Yeah, so there is actually something that, Joe, before I answer that direct question, which you may have to remind me of, but
sure.
I do want to say that there is a foundational experience for me that was a catalyst to the rest of my career, okay? And that was my first large team management role. So back in that era, one of the formative experiences that AT&T used to encourage its newer employees to get was to manage a large team, right? AT&T is a big union shop, right? Union partnerships all over the business, one of the largest union employers in the country. And so that was a formative experience. So here I am in my mid-20s.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, my job is being responsible for hundreds of people across multiple locations in the United States, most of them twice my age, all of them way more tenured than me. It was petrifying, quite frankly, right? And that role, which I wound up being in for 3 years in one way, shape, or form, because my role grew during that time, I got promoted in it, shaped me in such a way that I realized that leadership is about bringing out the best in others, that leadership is about people, and that every business is about people, and that, yes, you manage things, but you lead people. And that role, which I call the boot camp of my career, really, because it was actually in customer service. So it was a 7x24 role. We had pagers. There were no such things as cell phones back then. I remember my technicians joking with me that, and I actually got married during that role, that assignment. I remember them painting, they stole my pager, painted it white, and told me I had to clip it to my wedding dress, which I did not. Which I did not, even though they wanted me to.
That actually shows that they had some connection with you, too.
Yes,
That's
but that
kinda
was
fun.
after a very rocky start.
Okay.
Right? It was a very rocky start. And I actually talk about this story
Yeah.
in my book. It's actually the opening story in my book. It's
All right.
that formative in terms of my career. And so I would encourage every person out there who thinks they might want to be a leader to try to seek that initial experience that either directly or indirectly gives you the responsibility over people, right? Whether that's in your direct organization, and it can be just a handful to start, or it can be of a big project, right? Where you've got multiple people on the project and you're the project lead. This will really start, and I encourage you to do it early in your career. Because what it will do is it will have you realize that there are very, very few things in most businesses that can be accomplished by yourself.
Yes.
Right? Yes. And so, Joe, then this gets to your actual question, which is so many of us struggle, especially in our early years, of how to navigate, right?
Yep.
The navigation is not about the facts, the knowledge, the stuff we can read, the stuff we can listen to, the videos we can watch, the podcasts we can listen to, right? The complexity in the navigation is about the people. It's about the dynamics. It's about the who's who in the zoo, like I like to say, right?
Yep.
It's about the hierarchy. It's about the stated rules, but then the unstated ones, right? It's about culture, right? It's about the values of the organization. It's about how it works and how it doesn't work, right? And so my advice to people around how to best do that is to get to know as many people as you possibly can, to view every interaction as a learning relationship. Not everybody will become your friend. In fact, very few of them will. It's work. Not everyone will become a mentor, right? But you will learn, right? And again, observe. You can learn something from everything and everyone. Even, when I think about the 26 bosses I had, I, of course, very, very fondly remember the best three, right, that I had. But I also very much remember the worst three. And I learned as much from the worst three as I did the best three, I hated it in the moment, right? But it taught me a lot, and it shaped who I am today. So that's what I would say, is that the navigation is really about people. And the more quickly you realize that it is those intangibles, right? The more you seek connection, right? To find people that you can connect with, people that you can relate to, so that you can navigate that together, so that you can learn from others. Maybe you find somebody to take you under their wing, right? Maybe you find a cohort of people. This is one of the things I suggest to every company, right? Hiring people, especially from college, let's say, from university. It is always important to have a cohort, right? Even if they're not all in the same group, but to have a cohort of peers who are going through the exact same thing, right?
Okay.
That is a key retention metric, if you will, and a growth metric that not enough companies realize that is a necessity. It's something that you, as the leaders of that organization, are obligated to provide. Nobody can do this alone. Even the most brilliant of people can't do it alone, right? And so that will help ensure that you grow and develop, attract, and retain the best talent.
I love it.
Yeah.
So there really is intelligence and opportunities that come through active networking and connection.
Right.
And org navigation and the skill base really comes down to getting to know people, doing it together, not alone, and really understanding the culture and the nuances and all that, and loving it, connecting with people and loving and enjoying it, because that's organizations ultimately are about people.
Yes, they are.
I love it.
Yeah.
And that obviously served you very well, not only from, I progressed in the organization, but I can tell it was very meaningful to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I like to say that and this is true for certainly people at my stage of career and life, is you start really thinking about the legacy that you're leaving,
Certainly,
right? What is it that you have done to help make this world a better place? Yep. And for me, I fancy myself a lifetime student and practitioner of leadership. It's one of the big reasons why I wrote the book is that I have a great passion for what I believe is leading in the right way, right as defined by the way that is guided by your purpose and your values, the way that is guided by your mission, the way that absolutely delivers excellent results, but in a way where people can feel motivated. Some people may even be inspired by how you're doing it, right, and how you're helping them. I mean, there's nothing more rewarding for a true leader than seeing one of their people succeed. It's just, it's amazing, right, to know that you've played a small part in unlocking the potential of that person, helping them develop the skills and build that confidence to really shine. I mean, it's just an amazing thing.
Love it.
It is, yeah.
So, and I think obviously I can tell the passion. Again, you light up when you really talk about developing leaders and developing others and some of these key principles. All right, so you're leading a $35 billion business within AT&T. Then you say it's time to leave. After 32 years, that had to be a really, I mean, was that a tough decision? What went behind that, and what did you move to, and what can you learn? What can we learn from that?
And I think, hindsight is absolutely 2020. I know it's absolutely cliche, but as I look at the milestone markers of my career, when I started, I mean, we've been talking a lot about early career, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that I observed when I was younger was, man, there are a lot of people who have been here for 35, 40 years. Like, what are they still doing here, right? And then as my career progressed a little bit, I started thinking to myself, why aren't those people moving on? They're not creating space for more contemporary, more relevant leaders, right? They had their time. Why aren't they moving on? You can actually see this in many facets of society, by the way, right? Yeah. And that always stuck with me, okay? At the 15-year mark of my career, AT&T was purchased by SBC, right? And so while I worked for AT&T for 32 plus years, at the halfway mark, we were bought by another company, right? A East Coast-based global company was bought by a regional Texas-based company. Yeah. I lost every layer of management above me, every mentor and sponsor that I had built in 15 years, except one. Wow. So it was like a do-over, right? It was like a do-over. So when I hit the 30-year mark, I was like, it was actually hard to believe that 30 years had passed. And when I became, CEO of AT&T Business, it was a role that I knew that I could do, but it is a role that I never thought that I would get. So I was truly surprised when I was asked to take on that role. And I look back on it, and I started in that role in 2019. And I do believe that I was the right leader at the right time, because in 2020, of course, the global pandemic hit, right? And the experiences that I had had, the human-centric, people-centric orientation of how I do business, not only with my teams, but with my clients and with my partners, with investors, et cetera, was absolutely how we made our way through it. I could not have been prouder to lead the organization and support the organization through that period of time, because we were also, like many businesses, needing to, as we emerged out of COVID, redefine and reinvent our business, right? What is our core business? The whole world has now changed, right? We think about work differently. We think about technology and communications fundamentally differently. What does that mean for our business? And so after that experience and working through COVID in that role, I knew it was time, right? It was time for me to move on. I felt like I could have a greater impact with more people, not bound by just one company, right? I felt like I had given all that I could give over 32 years. I also remembered my frustration with people who hung on too long. And I said to myself, I could probably squeeze out another couple of years, but there's just no way I'm going to be here for another 5, right? And that was a big realization, saying, as much as I love this place, as much as I love my people, I love my clients, I love this business, it is time for somebody else to define and write the next chapter, right? And it was absolutely the right, perfect time. I have zero regrets. Now, was it difficult? Yeah, it was a difficult transition. My name, I was associated with AT&T, Anne Chow, AT&T something for more than half my
Big
life.
part of your identity.
Yeah, right. I mean, it was
Absolutely.
part of my identity, and I think this is
Certainly.
one of the biggest struggles. This is one of the biggest dangers, I think, of how particularly Americans work. Right, we just throw ourselves into it. There's good and the bad. The bad is it becomes our identity when it is not our identity. It is our job. It is our work. It is our career. Right, and so that's the logic that went into my retirement from AT&T, but my rewirement in my career.
Love it.
Yeah.
Fantastic, great story. And I do think there's an organizational life cycle to everything we do. And you recognized, that it was time for you to refresh, and you did. It was still a risk, though. It's still a step into the unknown for a little bit. So you step forward to what you're doing now. Now, where's your book? I know that we
here.
had.
Yep, Marianne's got it.
Right
Let's
here.
go ahead. Lead Bigger. Tell us the story behind Lead Bigger. What is it? How'd you write it? Why'd you write it? Who did you write it?
For whom did I write it? Yeah, so probably I would say when blogging became a thing, this is while I was still working, right? You remember blogging? Now, now it's very passive. Like now it's everybody knows what a blog is, right? Everybody's got blogs, just like podcasts, right?
Right.
So when blogging started being a thing, my job was large, and I had people all over the world. And one of the things that I was struggling with was, how do I connect with my people when I can't physically see them, when I can't physically go and handshake and meet every single person in my organization? How do I start building their confidence and leadership in the direction in me? How do I start building a culture of trust, and openness, right? One that is involved in risk-taking and innovation, right? Inclusion. So I started blogging at work. And through that process, the early blogs were really bad. I made a commitment to blog every week to my organization.
Oh, wow.
I did that for over 8 years. And every week, without fail. It became the #1 blog voted at AT&T by all of AT&T's employees.
What'd you
for all
blog
of those
about?
years.
What were you doing?
My blog was about anything. It was what my thought process was that week. It could be as short as wishing people a great holiday. I will absolutely confess that there were weeks I was like, oh, do I have to do it, right? But every week without fail, I blogged. I said something to my organization. As a result, my team got to know me. They got to know my family. They got to know the movies that I went to see, the vacations we went on, because I learned to find inspiration and lessons in literally everything. But what happened during that process was that I found my inner writer. And I had several employees say to me, you need to write a book. And I had never thought about it until that point. So since that bug was planted, I had this bucket list aspiration, like, man, I would really love to write my own leadership book. Not a memoir. Nobody really cares about my life. But a leadership book. So when I left AT&T, it was one of the things that I wanted to do. And the opportunity, it's kind of serendipity, it happened very quickly. I had 0 words written except a proposal. Landed a wonderful deal with Simon & Schuster. Had a great literary agent, and off we went. The motivation for writing the book is, again, my passion about leadership. Leadership, I believe, is a choice. I don't believe that it requires a title or position. I know for sure that leadership has no gender, it has no race, it has no size, weight, country of origin, or language. And I wanted to write a book about leading in a human-centric way, in a way that built on relationships, in a way that advances meaningful work, that enables and builds an agile workforce, right? That creates a trusted work environment. And that was my inspiration. I had learned to lead bigger in that very first large team job that I told you all about. I didn't call it that then, but really it was inclusive leadership. I use the term lead bigger synonymously with inclusive leadership, and here's my definition. The definition of leading bigger, of inclusive leadership, is the ability to widen your perspective to have greater performance and impact.
Okay.
That's
It's a
all
nice
it is.
operational definition.
Widen your perspective to
have
have
greater performance and
and
impact.
impact, right?
Love it.
How do you
like
do
it.
that? You do that, there's 3 key ways you can do that. One, by surrounding yourself with people who are different than you, who will naturally have different perspectives. And I don't mean simply gender or race.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean background, education, experience, geography. You know, every an infinite set of different dimensions, right? No two of us are exactly the same.
Yeah.
That's what makes the human race so beautiful, right? And so the widening of perspectives. The second is seek different data sources, information sources, right? No doubt one of the reasons why you all started this podcast is that you all have a point of view. You wanted to share and engage others to share different points of view.
Absolutely.
Because you're trying to widen people's perspectives, right? About careers or otherwise, right? About leadership otherwise. So the second is to expose yourself to different data and information sources than you always go to, right? The way media sucks you in, you know this better than I do, right? They want you to keep going to the same thing. You
Yeah.
then create echo chambers that are
That's
so
right.
loud that you
Yes.
miss what's actually happening
The
around you.
pampery and the challenge of
Yeah.
ideas.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
No
And
question.
then the third way that you widen your perspectives is to seek different experiences. So if you have a desk job, I always encourage people, go spend a day in the field. Go, shadow a salesperson, right? If you're a salesperson, come in and sit with your pricer for a day. See what the day in their life is, right? So seek different experiences than the ones that your day job brings. And this is how you continually widen your perspectives for greater performance and impact. And if you don't lead bigger, I absolutely believe you will lose to somebody who is.
I love it.
That's
Well,
so
that's a nice punchline,
accurate.
Nadine.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to read something because I was doing some research and I stumbled upon this, and it's part of the book as well. So if you haven't read the book, Lead Bigger, please go get it. But here's what I found fascinating, and I totally agree with Anne. It says, so Anne emphasizes that culture must be owned by leaders and not outsourced to human resources. True culture building means aligning your actions, systems, and policies with your stated values. If you say you value trust and empowerment, but require multiple approval layers for small decisions or micromanage your team's every move, the disconnect becomes the culture.
Yep.
So,
So everything informs culture, and it starts with
Absolutely.
leadership owning it. You know, it's funny. One thing that you lit up about as far as your first P&L role is that I owned it.
Yeah.
I couldn't blame it. And it's like you loved that ownership, right?
Yes.
You didn't run away from it. You
Yes.
didn't obfuscate. You didn't push it off to the side and say, no, I own it. And if I own it, that means if something goes well, I own it too,
yeah.
That's right.
right? And I will give credit, but you like the stretch and the opportunity to really prove yourself.
Yeah, I do, and I view that as an obligation of doing that for others, right? To find people's potential. This actually is one of what I would consider one of my superpowers is I can spot great talent, right? And I can
good.
develop talent, right? And you see something in someone, but if they're never given the opportunity, to develop certain muscles, to expand beyond what they may be best known for, they're never going to realize their greatest potential. They're
Yeah.
they're just not.
That's very true.
And so we all need help, right? And I think that's one of the beautiful things. One of the things that that I've often said is, if we think about every single person who helped us, right, Marianne, you, Joe, you, myself, get to where we are today, we would love to go back and thank them and pay them back, but we can't. So the only thing we can do to honor everything that they've done for us is to pay it forward. And that's what that's all about, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's how we make the world a better place. That's how we come together. And I absolutely do believe that inclusion is the way. Inclusion as I've defined it, leading bigger as I've defined it. Because how many times do we go through our day, whether personally or professionally, and we see someone behave in a certain way, and we're like, ugh, why can't they just be the bigger person?
Yep.
Right? Oh man, that behavior is so small. Or even maybe we find ourselves like we said something, we offended somebody, something slipped out that we thought and then we said and then we hurt somebody, right? We pulled a conversation that was progressing, we pulled it back, right? We are all subject to our own small behavior, small thoughts, right? The question, the challenge, the opportunity is whether we can not only dream bigger and think bigger, but whether we can actually lead bigger. Lead bigger is about action.
Yeah, and you're really kind of giving a great case for elevating your game.
Yes.
And your perspective, challenging, learning, growing, stretching. Discomfort is fine as long as you're relatively safe.
Yes.
But go lean into it. And it sounds like that's what you're doing now, too. So the book, fantastic. In fact, we're going to read it.
Thank you.
And, we'll make sure it's,
Would love a positive Amazon or Google
I
review.
will glad to do that. Trust me, we've written a few books. We understand how that is. So we will absolutely help you there. So what else are you doing right now? I mean, you've pivoted, Rewired CEO, obviously some board work. Kind of, how are you spending your time nowadays?
Yeah, so I'm living what I like to call the portfolio life, right? Which
Okay.
is I am choosing very consciously what I'm involved in, right? So whether that's the boards that I serve on, so I serve on 3 public company boards, 1 microcap, 2 large cap Fortune 500 companies. I love each of the companies that I sit on the boards of. That's Franklin Covey, 3M, and CSX. So I really enjoy the responsibility of oversight and governance. Right? It's neat to be on this side, of an organization to try to help shepherd it, support it. Support the CEO and the management team. Help oversee the strategy and move the business forward and create value for shareholders. So I really enjoy that. I also teach at Northwestern Kellogg School of Management. I have an opportunity to spend time with EMBA students or executive ed students who are typically mid-career professionals, right, who are very much interested in advancing their careers. Maybe some of them are even planning a career pivot, right, or amidst a career pivot, right? As an example, Kellogg has great relationships with the military, so we have many veterans who come through the programs because they're now looking to pivot into industry, right, after their service is done. And so it's really an honor to be able to spend time with them in a complementary way. When I say complementary, I don't have a PhD, I'm not a tenured professor, I'm not a full-time professor, but I'm a practitioner, right?
Sure.
And so there are things that I can bring to the table that supplement what the fabulous education they're receiving from the other professors that they have. So I do that as well, which I really, really enjoy. And then I also, do keynote speeches in various places. And, if an organization feels like I can add value for them in whatever way that is, whether it's, helping them with a leadership summit or doing some work with their leaders or teams, I'm up for that too. And so it's a blessing and a privilege to be able to have this portfolio that I have.
So you've really leaned into legacy. I mean,
That's
and
what
I
it
do
is,
think that
yeah.
every career kind of starts with I just need a job. Then I want to enjoy what I do,
Yes.
and then the last one is I want to leave a great legacy. And you're very much immersed in that, leaving an amazing footprint as we go forward, and so much more to do, and so much more life to live.
Yes.
This has been fantastic. One last question for
Sure.
you then. Knowing our audience, our audience are kind of early mid-career professionals. And again, you've given a lot of pearls of wisdom already, right? So it's almost like I'd like to say ditto, just follow it. Anything else you'd like to leave our audience with?
Yeah, sure. This is my team used to call them Chow-isms. They're basically quotes from me that are kind of like mantras.
Yeah, I like it.
So I will share one of my very primary Chow-isms with everybody, and that is that life and leadership are all about relationships. Be sure to seek and foster meaningful ones.
Got it? Wow, that's fantastic. Well, thank you so much,
Thank you
Anne.
for
This is
joining us.
amazing stuff.
Last question, though. Where can people find you?
Yes, they can find me on LinkedIn. I'm quite active on there. I also have my own website, which is theannechow.com.
Okay.
So easy to find me there, and I'm on mostly all the socials. But LinkedIn and my website are the 2 best places.
Perfect.
Theannechow.com.
The Anne
Anne
Chow,
Chow.
and
All
Anne
right.
with an E.
All right, we got it. Thank you. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us
Thank
today.
you, my pleasure.
All right, I'm good.
American Narratives is brought to you by CMP, a talent and career transition firm providing solutions across the full talent lifecycle.
From recruiting to talent development to outplacement, we help leaders improve our world through deep insights and impactful talent solutions.
For more information, visit us at careermp.com.